All right. We're ready?
We're ready.
We're ready to go. Yay. All right. Awesome. So today Reina is with me. I don't know if you know that Reina means queen in Spanish. Oh, you do. Okay, awesome. Reina is with me and she's going to talk to us about her journey, her son. I was thinking about today, Josiah had multiple rebirths in just one lifetime, over and over and over. And you probably even more than his mom. So I actually wanted to start with one of his poems that I find beautiful from the book that you wrote because of Josiah. And it says, why do we focus on manifesting money? Instead, we should focus on manifesting love. Loving every cell in your body can be hard to do. Once you do love yourself, you also find that there is always food on your plate, water in your glass, a roof over your head, and peace in your heart. How can we love others if we do not love ourselves? Stop, breathe, look, and feel what is around you, and shine your lights to the world. And then there is a beautiful series of pictures that I'm gonna try to share like this of Josiah. It's so beautiful.
And that's how he lived his life for sure.
So I actually wanted to ask you an uncomfortable question.
Oh,
And
great.
just to start with, and you know, and start from there. But in, you know, as humans, we want to eradicate things like diseases and illnesses, and something like cancer is, you call it the monster, and you know, something that it's usually takes people's lives, and it's not well seen. However, here there is a different story because it kind of like gave Josiah it was the catalyst for a new life for him. Would you mind starting from here? So Josiah before and during his cancer journey.
So Josiah's always been unique and talented and introspective also. And he was, you know, very good in school, and when as soon as he got into circus, that was it. He loved the theatrics and the performing and the movement of the body. And it's where he started to really get in touch with a different aspect of him in that realm. And so then he went on to Disney to work in the Parade of Dreams, and then also in school he was going to go into theater design. And as he was going to go into his third year of college, he'd come out to blow fire for his older brother's son's birthday, and it was a couple days before his birthday. And it was magical to see that, because it's like, you know, fire. I have a picture of him somewhere that I cannot find anywhere, so I don't know if I'm not supposed to see it or what, but I have this picture of him outside my house, and he had blown this plume that was just amazing. And anyways, there was not, you know, I wasn't a fan of that. You know, he had this compromised kind of lung issues his life. He always had dealt with like allergies, and so there's just always this like, you know, hang on, you know, it's not the best thing, you know. So as soon as he was done with that, we were going to the movies for his birthday before he went back to Orange County. And he just really had a hard time catching his breath. And I was like, you know, always stay here with me, you know, like part of my MO, stay here with me. And he's like, no, I'm going home, you know. And he went home, and, you know, he called me when he got home, and then he called me again several hours later, and he was like, I can't, still can't catch my breath. And I'm like, well, just, pack your butt up and go to the hospital. And so he went, and he called me in the middle of the night, like 3:30 in the morning. He's like, you want the good news or the bad news? And I'm like, funny boy, you just give me the news. So he had a touch of what they thought was like a pneumonia, but also they had found a mass in his chest. And so that was set off a whirlwind of stuff. But within that whirlwind of stuff and getting diagnosed, I was like, I don't know if Josiah said it or his dad said it or I said it, but like the synchronicity of there's got to be a different way, right? And it set him on a path that challenged me, and as a mother, not that I wanted him to do chemotherapy or to go through any of that kind of thing at all. I didn't want any of it, but he forced me to let go of the reins and to allow him, as a 20-year, he was only 20 years old man, to decide what he was going to do for his body. And as a mom, you're always deciding, like you're kind of deciding, and as they get older, you're deciding together. And I won't say that we didn't decide things together, because I was extremely involved in what he was thinking, and but it was as if this yuppie, he was going to Cal State Fullerton, just immediately turned into this, really, he was always a deep thinker, but the depth that he went to with just it blew my mind, because I've always been like, the joke around here is I wish I could be shallow, I don't give anything to be shallow, not shallow, and neither was Josiah. And so it just turned him into quite a hippie, and really seeking everything. So he was seeking every aspect of spirituality, of holistic health, of mind body. Did he create this in his body? What was happening within him and his emotional state that would create something within him? And so throughout, this was a 9-year thing, journey, and within that, what I thought, we had tackled it, like everything. We had looked into every aspect of everything, and I've learned a lot since then too. And I'm like, well, I wonder if Josiah knew. And then I was like, oh, he had to have known. Like, he knew more than I knew, and like, he knew everything. So the amount of depth he went to, and then again, just like that poem you read, he was looking for his creative expression, and when that came through, I don't even know how to say it right, but that creative expression was going to be the way he was going to eat and sleep and house himself, because what he was doing was he was creating expressions of love in different ways. And so that, that's pretty much kind of, I could go on and on and on, but that was the gist of this I call it the evolution of Josiah, this shift from, oh, this is what I know, and this is what I'm gonna know, and I'm gonna figure this out no matter what, which we all should be in that realm when something happens to us. Is I need to educate, because education is power. So he was educating himself on all levels to figure out what was best for him, not what mom wanted, not what dad wanted, not what his friends even wanted, not what his girlfriend wanted, but what he wanted for himself. And he was a Leo, and he was stubborn, and he was going to do it his way, and I had to honor that. And so that was a mommy challenge, but I had to honor that. So
it sounds that he decided to live. I was hearing somebody saying the other day, you can decide to live either in fear or in love. And if you live in love, there is no fear. And if you live in fear, there is no love. So reading the book, you're always like saying that you were afraid, right? You were worried about his condition, especially since he was outside or away from home and miles away from home the most of the time. But he was like, I am living life on my terms until the end. I want to do every single thing that I decide to do.
Exactly.
It's inspiring because it shows that in this case, cancer didn't prevent life. Actually, was the engine for a new life.
Yeah, it really was, and it was amazing to watch. And I'm not going to tell you that Josiah didn't have some concerns within his time frame. Of course, he wasn't oblivious, but he wasn't going to. I mean, he just didn't talk. I mean, we talked about it when we had to talk about it. But he can go around going, "Oh, I have this is what I have." You know, that wasn't part of his MO. Unless you got really close to him, which a lot of people were, you know, he had a lot of, you know, you didn't really know or get what was going on, you know, because he just kept going.
Yeah, I was rereading a part of the book in which he got the job as a massage therapist for Apple, and that's the dream job. It's like he got to do that in this lifetime. It's incredible, and you have to say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? You're going where? Like, no, like we were just that particular storyline knocked me to my knees, to be honest with you, because, you know, he kept cancer or this beast, I call it, this monster, at bay for about 7 years. In the last 2 years, it kept trying to creep in, and then he would just deal with it, and then he would, like, you know, his body would kind of come back into homeostasis and balance. But that summer, it was really it was trying its best to get to him, and it was brutal. It was brutal, and he did come and stay with me and his we would go to his father's, and we had another I say it like we had another opportunity to share custody. So we you know, he would go back and forth, and that's when that job interview came up. And so he had been in a kind of a weird space where he just didn't feel good, you know, and he had to like work on feeling better. And he said he was going to fly up there because we're in Southern California. This was in Northern. And I was like, you know, in my mind, I'm going, the hell you are, you know, like, but, you know, at that point, you know, I know he's going. There's no way he's not going. And so he, you know, went, of course, and he got the job. And I was, you know, I've seen Josiah do many things, but to see that his light was so bright that these people did not see the frailty of his body and what he had been through. And I know Josiah didn't tell them. I was like, all they saw was this human spirit emanating his truth, you know. And so it was just, I was flabbergasted, and of course then he, you know, he went home, and so I was like, no, don't go.
Yeah, he's so much more than the cancer that he had.
Right.
He's so much more.
Yeah, that was I don't know what that was. I have a lot of storylines on that, but we'll stop on that.
And oh, hello, Beth and Brian and Bobby. Actually, Bobby, I think that Bobby is like an older version of Josiah. I don't know why in my mind I see an older version of Josiah and Bobby. I mean, we're all reflections of one another anyways. So
yeah, brother.
And it's so interesting that you both met, right, on this plane.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you about the book. Actually, there is a question here before I go into my questions. Beth is asking, what do you think drove Josiah to go deep and seek his own answers?
I think he was born with it. I think he was absolutely, he came here that way, and he was a trailblazer. And it really wasn't, it was just, one of us said there's got to be something other than chemo. And he said, oh, there's got to be. And that was it. And he just who he was. It was who he was.
I didn't know that he was a Leo. And it makes sense. My husband is a Leo as well. And if he says yes, it's yes. If he says no, it's no. There is nothing that you can really do. In general, there is nothing that we can do to convince people of anything or try to get them to do something or not do something. So I wanted to ask you about the book, because many people would like to do something in memory of their loved one, in honor of their loved one, like a book or starting a podcast or starting a legacy of some sort. But not everybody is able to follow through. And in general, again, it's hard to follow through with something like that. Just creating a book is, is a journey within itself. But we talked about this before. That's what I wanted to talk about as well. What brought you to when did the idea of creating a book came to your mind, and how did you go with it? And then there are other questions that go with that one. But I really would like for you to talk about the journey, because I feel that we might think that it's an easy journey. I just want to write a book. I just write a book and that's it. But in reality, reliving those things that you're writing about could have prevented you from completing the work. Of course, being Josiah's mom, he was not going to allow that to happen. But at the same time, you're human and you're his mom. And so I would like to ask you that series of questions. So when did the idea come to mind of talking about his story?
Well, I really think it came to mind when I wrote his tribute, but I didn't put it together then, because he had told me to share his story and his love, make them laugh and tell my story. And I had written that in the tribute, and then that was just that. And I've been asked to write in a gratitude compilation book, which a compilation book is several authors in the book. And it was right before the 1 year, and I was like, no. You want me to write about sorrow, pain, misery? Like, I'm your girl, but like, no. And not that I didn't have anything to be grateful for, but my mind, it's coming up on the 1 year, and in that, it's all that whole energy. So, I was sad, bottom line. So my friend said, you wanted to write in these other books, and you were, disappointed you didn't. And I said, yeah, but that was like on angels and meditation, and she said, just basically, in a nutshell, she coaxed me and said, just do it. And so I, said yes. And that's when Polish Through the Pain came through. And I didn't tell anybody. Like, I didn't tell my husband, I didn't tell my sister, I didn't tell a soul I was going to write this book. Not one soul. My husband knew I was back in my room, and he's like, I don't know what she's doing, but when she's ready. And I, within 4 days, that came out. And I even tried to stop writing it, because I thought, this is so heavy, and Josiah showed me, no, it's keep going. So it turned out to be like, I was dumbfounded. I don't know, flabbergasted. It was just it's just such a beautiful story. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So now I'm in a lot of groups that have authors, because I had done that and I knew of my publisher. Okay. So now, like, that comes out. That was like, I wrote that in October, actually right before the 1 year. And by December, I am sitting on the floor drinking coffee And I hear that first chapter, form. Do I have to be form again? I like it here. Why must I go? And I was, what am I here? What's going on in my brain? So I jumped up and I wrote this down, and I was like, well, that's before you came here, because we're talking about coming, and she's my mom. I'm coming to see my mom, and like she'd be my mom this time, and and it's this whole, like, it's this short little thing. And I just felt this nudge, like, you need to write this story, you need to write a book. And I was like, yeah, right. This is crazy. Like, I've always written, but like, no. So I thought, well, I'll just call this publisher, tell her my idea, and she's going to tell me you're a nut job, it's not going to work, and I'm done. That'll be over, Well, of course, she had read Polish Through the Pain. She understood the dynamics that were going on, and said, yeah, let's do it. So I, number one, had someone I was accountable to that was going to help me, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was still very much in my grief journey. I was very new in it, and still in the infancy of it. And I thought, what are you doing? This is crazy. But in the first year, I had a piece of paper that I had just bullet pointed everything that had happened, the signs and all these different things. And it was literally like 3 or 4 words sometimes, maybe a whole sentence, but just that's it. And I said, well, what do I do? And she said, just start writing the stories. Just get that sheet of paper out, start writing what you saw. And so I just began that. And it was, I would take months off. Like, I would write, I think the most I wrote one day was like 13,000 words. It was crazy. I just sat here and wrote. And then I just went, oh, I gotta back off. And then, because like you said, I was reliving these stories, some of the stories were so gut wrenching and so painful and so real that I would say, oh, okay. And I just walk away, like I got, and I would just wait a month, and then I say, okay, got to go back, because in my mind, it was like the book, you got to finish. And honestly, I didn't tell a lot of people I was writing a book either, because I felt that, like, what if I don't do it, or, sometimes when you have a really, idea in your head that you're manifesting, sometimes keeping it to yourself for a moment keeps that energy really connected, and it keeps you really in that creative energy. And so I was just staying within that. And I mean, yeah, some people knew, but some people didn't. So I think that's just I didn't give myself a time frame. I didn't know how I was going to end the book. I had no idea what was going on, but I was writing stories after I wrote that first year. Now I was writing stories I was actually living. So something would happen, and I would come home and I'd be like, oh my God, I gotta write that down. And then I would maybe take a break, and then something would happen, and I would bullet point it and then write so that, and then I had the dream after the second year, which, I'm so grateful that I didn't feel like I had to rush, because the second year there was such a powerful message that he gave, such a powerful present he gave me, that story had to be there. And then I had a dream, and I got up and I wrote the dream down. And when I was done writing, which was really kind of a channeling of him, because I was just writing. When I was done, I realized I had just written the last chapter, and I knew I was done. And then I just needed to write him going back to like the beginning and end, and then some final thoughts. And I had already written the final thoughts. I was like, wait, final thoughts? You want me to write final thoughts? And I went in the other room and I said, I wrote something down about my daughter having a baby. And then I just went in there and I wrote it, and I was done. And so that, I finished it because I had to, like, like not everybody needs to read a book or start a foundation, but what you need to do. And if it's just I know today I need to go and do this for my child, then just go do that. It doesn't have to be anything, and there's no time frame. I mean, the biggest thing is I didn't give myself time frame, even though I wanted it. I wanted it done on the anniversary of second anniversary of his ascending, and I was like, then I would have missed that present. And then for editing and stuff, I just gave myself a lot of grace and time, and I thought, well, I'll do it on the third. He's my third child, and the third ascension day. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do it on that day. That's crazy. Like, you're not even, your head is like somewhere else that day. Like, and then we just kind of moved it, and then I ended up doing it on 3/3, which is my third child. So everything has to have meaning and depth, and nothing can just be a random number. So just I had someone I was accountable to. So I mean, if it's something you want to do and you don't feel like you can do it alone, then you get someone who knows something about it to hold your hand through it. Shanna became, she was part of my therapy. She was part of the healing that I was doing. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought I was going to write a book, but it became, now I know what I'm doing if I want to do it again somewhat, but so I really would encourage you to, if you have an idea and you're like, I don't know how to do a fundraiser, I don't know how to, then find someone who does, and then grab their coattail and let them, take you with them. So
I'm interested in asking you, did this person that was holding you accountable come into your life? Was this an encounter of some sort, or was she already in your life?
This was my publisher. So when I called her and I hired her to help me, but she definitely came into my life. She's like the word angel, so but had I not done that very first book, the gratitude book, I wouldn't have known this. So and of course, then the way Carol Ann came into my life was through a class I went on mediumship, actually. And I went to Arizona and we met, and then we started going to a few classes together, and she invited me to that. So everything, like if she hadn't invited me to that, I don't know, like something else would have happened. But
it seems like your journey is full of, even while Josiah was still here, full of uncomfortable actions that you had to take and push yourself through them, no matter what your human Raina wanted. It's like, that's not what the bigger plan wants. Even the gratitude book, if you didn't do it, if you didn't participate in doing it, maybe because of Josiah, the book would not be here.
Right. And Polish Through the Pain is proven to be quite a story in itself, just a small story in itself. And you never know. There's a lot of things I don't want to do.
Right.
I mean, but there's things that we can, say, I don't want to do that. And you know what? We don't have to do that. Like, I don't want to cook, so I'm not going to cook,
Right.
But, right. I still can eat if I don't cook. So,
right.
You know what I mean? But there's things that I don't want to do, and kind of tough, because you got to do it. If you have to look that this is all so much bigger than us. And if you don't want to do it alone, then ask for someone to come into your life, that will help you and walk with you and do things with you. And because we really need each other, especially a parent. I had no idea. You're clueless till you're there. You just don't know until you know. And so, when we lock arms and we lock hearts and we lock minds and ideas, we're so much stronger,
Yeah. And what comes to mind is something that a mom shared with me one day when I asked her the same question: how did you manage to follow through with something that it's so can be so hard? And she said, because I know that my son keeps on living. I know that he's alive. And I want for him, once I meet him again, to be able to say, Mom, look at where you were and how you were feeling and what you accomplished, what you were able to do, no matter what, thanks to your faith and to your consistency. And that's that's what drives her.
right.
Um,
Well, and
and
it's, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's honoring, like when I got the phone call that Josiah's physical presence was no longer here, the only thing that mattered to me was finding him.
Mm.
Because if you're not here, then where are you?
Mm.
Because for me personally, I knew that there was no way that another leg was going to go in front of another leg and in front of another leg, or that air was going to be able to go in and out of my body if I didn't know where he was. And I continue to feel that way. And I think that's why he says, write it down, that what we do every single day to honor them is what lets us know they're here, because what you focus on gets bigger. So it's paying attention to all those things and honoring all that. Like the other mother said, she had to, because she was honoring. If I didn't finish the book, if it was still sitting here, and I was writing, well, first of all, it would be like that big. So it would just be super, super big. But if I didn't finish it, I wouldn't be, I had to honor him. I still have to do things. Like, it's not even a want. It's a must,
It's as if like your spirit has to use this physical vessel, even if the physical vessel has to go through the human emotions that are normal. And
Yeah.
in my shoes, being a daughter, soon to be mom, uh, I always put myself in their shoes, thinking, okay, I am alive. I know that I'm fine. I want for my mom to know that I am fine, and I want to keep on collaborating. I know that I am very stubborn as well. And my mom wants to to make a book as well. She has been talking about it. So I know that I would be just as stubborn as Josiah from the other side, and make her follow through with the things that I couldn't do while here. So I put myself in their shoes, and that's what I think. This is how I feel. I'm like, okay, we know that our bond is still there. We know that we are eternal beings. Right now, you're in the flesh. Right now, I'm in the spirit. But let's keep this happening. I don't want for you to forget that this is, I would think so many things. And I'm so, every time that they connect me with their moms, especially, even with their dads, but mainly moms, it's such an honor for me, because I'm like, yes, I get you. I get your desire to let your mom know that you keep on living, and that you want to live through them, and that you have things that you want for them to do, like art and the oracle deck, because you also created an oracle deck, right?
I did. It's right
Can we
here.
talk about that for a second?
Well, look.
And we have to talk about the tree, because there is it's a symbol. Which one do you want to talk about?
So we'll just start with how this deck came. So the tree Josiah carved out of wood, and I call it wooden wonders that he was creating. And a lot of them were mandalas. He was making like stair rails, and I mean just very, boho badass, stuff. I mean, it was really beautiful. And one day there was a package, and I lost my video. Hang on. One day there was a package, and I opened it up, and it was in there. No words, nothing. Just pulled it out. Of course, I knew, and I called him, and he just said surprise, and I was like, oh my gosh! So we got the tree of life with the flower of life, all in one unison of energy, and I was just, it's, what did you make me, and I guarantee you there's not another one. And so, so as I was coming to the end of the book, when you read the book, or if you've read the book, there's a lot of mentions of me using oracles to connect with Josiah. And I call it the nudge. You get it's just a feeling, you just go, oh my gosh. And I would pull a card, and it would blow my mind, the connection that was happening. So I thought, I want to create my own. And I had an idea in my head and of how I would do it. And it was based on, a book. And so I was thinking, and I was downloading, and I brought my husband in. He's sitting right here next to me. And I said, look at what, blah, the pictures. And he looks at me, just turns his head like this, and he says, I thought you'd use a tree. And I go, what? And he goes, I thought you'd use a tree. And I go, oh my God, you just screwed me up. Like, what? So this is really quite powerful. So he leaves because he's going, it's probably a day like today because he just left to go hunting. So he leaves to go do his thing. And I'm like, in my head. And then I hear a song, and I honestly don't remember what song it is. I just heard a song. And I walked out there to listen to the song, and it just brought me to my knees, and it just brought me into tears. And at that moment, I was like, I'm going in, because there's days I can't go in, and there's days I'm like, this is the day. You need to be there. So I laid down on the couch, and I listened to song after song, probably 7 songs. I mean, it was a while. I think it was a couple hours, probably more than 7 songs. And I just allowed myself to be within the emotions that were going on. And kind of as I'm coming out of it, I had my friend call me, and I'm telling him, what happened. And I said, hang on a second, Rich is calling me, let me know where he's at. So I'll call you back. So I'm telling him, I don't even say hello. All I say is, you screwed me up. And he says, I'm at your service. So I tell him this, I was in my head, and I was downloading pictures of trees, tons of trees. And I heard the song, and then I was in my heart, basically. And then all of a sudden, I'm talking to him, and I stop, and I go, oh! And he says, what? And I said, because now I'm in my spirit. And my curtain opened up, and I saw this, and I went, Josiah's tree. What am I thinking? Josiah's tree. I gotta go. I get off the phone, call back Kim. I'm crying, and she's crying, and I know what I got to do. Called the gal that helped me create them. Her name was also Kim. And I said, can you do this on your computer? And she said, I think so. So from there, we decided to use 4 of his wooden wonders, or his mandalas. That this is the Merkaba and the Seed of Life. And this I call the pinwheel. I actually have this one at my house. And the triangle one, which I actually have this one also at my house. And so we used his mandalas and some mandalas in the background to create the deck. And I used information or messages that he had given me throughout the book to put in here, and some not, but there's a lot of things that you'll read in the book, and then you'll pull a card and you go, oh my gosh, that's in the book. But it's what he had said to me in the book. And so they became this beautiful thing, and it's called Sacred Alchemy. And I just pulled the card, just fell out, and it says, I am in the alchemy of everything. So,
Beautiful.
and alchemy, alchemy is back in the I don't know what time, 1800s or whatever. Alchemy is when they would take metals and they wanted to create it to be gold. They were trying to manipulate it. And to me, we live in this spiritual alchemy where where Josiah is now taking information that I know and that I recognize and creating a new language with me. And that's which I've explained deeply in the book of how a lot of things came to be that I was seeing, how he was creating this language. And now, I pretty much know the language, and I know when he, I can feel it, and I can see it very clearly because I've paid attention to what he was trying to teach me. So to me, that's the spiritual alchemy of taking what we know and forming it into the new.
When
I
I
was
think
gonna say
about,
manipulating, and I didn't like that word. I'm like, we're not really
right,
manipulating it, but like we're molding it and creating this new vibration that connects to them.
when I think about alchemy, I think about transforming anything into gold, even poop. That's what I always think about. Anything in our lives that we consider poop, anything that we consider a curse, anything that we consider a tragedy. It's unbelievable how super powerful we are in the sense that we are able to transform it into gold, something like a blessing, something higher, something better.
Well,
Um,
they say in the Japanese, and I don't know what it's called, that they will break a glass, or if a glass breaks, and then they take liquid gold and they run it through it to put that together, and that is what creates this new, more beautiful piece, cup, whatever it is, plate. And I feel like within our hearts, I mean, to me, my heart wasn't even in my chest, and it was shredded into so many fine ribbons and fibers. It was shredded. And when we can either stay there, or we can transform it by allowing ourselves to learn about the language, about spirituality, about the afterlife, and all the things that we need to do to connect, and about the bigger picture, which we're not always going to see, we always know, but we just know it's bigger. And then, now that my heart, has had this liquid gold, that's the liquid gold, that's the alchemy that comes in, and it starts to just put that back in some sort of perspective. And is it the same? No, because nothing about me is the same. It's nothing, I mean, maybe a few things, but nothing's really the same about the way I think, the way I feel, the way I process information, the way I look, at things. I look at them differently. I look to see something else that I maybe didn't look for last time, before. So that's the alchemy of grief. I need to write that down.
I like that. Yeah, it's recorded. So I'm gonna read this first. Beth is saying, I just pulled a card from the Sacred Alchemy, and it says, I am here. I have not gone anywhere. Exactly what Sean has whispered to me from the moment he dropped his body. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're here, and it's not like it's not what we wanted, and we certainly wouldn't wish this on anybody. But sometimes I just have to go like, okay, you're just in the other room. So if I get up and go in the other room, then I'll be with you. And I'm not saying in a physical energy, I'm talking spiritually. I have to get up and I have to go in the other room to understand the story. One day, this was so fun. I said, I just wish you'd come in the front door. I just wish you'd come in the front door. I kid you not, about 5 or 6 minutes later, I opened the front door and a feather was on right there, was sitting right there. And I went, oh, come on, come on in. Um, it's hard. It's probably the epitome of the word journey, because you're not really on a path because it's rocky and there's boulders and there's mud and there's quicksand, and then all of a sudden you're on this pasture and it's all green and pretty and the rainbows are out, and then you're like, wait, but the next part's quicksand again. I don't want to go there again. But you sometimes have to just kind of get in there and pull yourself back out. So
Mhm. It's the most I would have never, before knowing that there are people whose children are in spirit, I really never had that thought in my mind.
yeah,
And they are now, because I know that all your children know mine, because he's a child now. He's about to be a little thing, but in reality, when I heard his voice, it was about 28, 29. So I know that he's the one that brought me in the lives of all those that I have around me right now, and I'm very grateful for that. And I asked myself why many times. I asked myself if I've gone through something like this previously, and my mom said yes, probably in a previous life. I asked myself this question many times: what do I have to do with moms and their children in spirit? Um, and then I received this other answer, which is, if I was in their shoes, I would like for them to have somebody like me here who could interconnect them with one another. And
Yeah.
that's what makes my heart feels good. But what you were saying is that no matter how many times you fall down, like, you cannot stay there. You cannot stay there. And I feel that thanks to this computer, thanks to this technology, you also have access to so many people that you can that can understand you, that you can create a community and a tribe with, and healing in community.
Well, I think the easy route is to fall down and not get back up, because it is that devastating. But what I understand for myself and many other parents is, how does that serve Josiah? How does that honor Josiah if I get sick, or if I just stay in bed? And how does that honor the other physical people that are in my life? Like, that doesn't mean I don't grieve, or I don't. I mean, they have days I just literally don't want to do anything, and I honor those days. There's it's a there's a part, and I say this a lot, that there's a part of you that's always in day one. You're always just kind of right there, and it just hovers. It's actually probably split. It's probably like a complete split of you, and it's a duality you live in. You live in this immense pain. I just meant good word, and then you live in the hope of. I'm going to take back that word. It's almost like you just live in the love. You just live in the love, and you remember everything, and you do what you can because of them, because of Josiah, because I was fortunate enough to get 29 years with him. A long time. I was 29 when I had him. So there's all those synchronicities, and that's where it comes all the way for a circle back to gratitude. That just the mere fact that he chose me, I got him. Could have chose someone else, probably not, but but I got him. Was that enough? No, it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. But I got him. He was mine, whether it's for one day or 60 years, whatever we don't get to decide how it's going to be while we're here. I've decided it before. So if I decided this before, and he came and said, hey, this time I need you to be my mom, and I'm going to leave early. And, this is what's going to go down. And I am positive that I said, not happening. Not doing it. No. Not going to do it. But the bond we have through many lifetimes was greater, and my need to be a part of what he needed for this journey braided into what I needed for this journey. And together we made a deal. Okay, well, if you're going to go, you can't go too far. Okay, I won't go too far. He's like, I make jokes, but I mean, you know what I'm saying, so that was another perspective that had to come, that I thought it would take me a lifetime to unpack in my brain and get around my brain. But really, it didn't take that long, because he showed me. He kept showing me that we've been together, and remember when I said you're such a child? And I'm like, yeah, you're my dad. Like, you acted like my dad that day, and I got a word. I woke up to the word ancestry. This was in the very beginning. And I was like, ancestry.com? I mean, why am I hearing this? And I had a friend coming over that day to we were supposed to trade, but I was in no shape, because it literally had been like 3 weeks or something. And she says to me, I didn't tell her a word, didn't say a word. And I wasn't talking much back then anyways. And she said, Josiah wants you to get out in the forest and get close to your ancestors. And I said, excuse me? And she said, yeah, like, get in touch with your ancestors, like the ones that have been around, or I'm not really quite sure whatever she elaborated on. And I just started to cry, and I could hear him say, Mom, we've been together since the dawn of time. I am your ancestor. You are my ancestor. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, we've always been together, like forever. Adam and Eve lived over here, and Josiah and I lived over there. Like, I don't know, like, but like, we've always been together. And that was like the first like liquid piece that came in, and from there I just allowed those liquid pieces to come in. Is there more liquid that needs to be put in there? Yeah, a lot more, until the day I go to be with him. I'm not going to understand everything.
Right. Another thing that came to mind, two things. One is a quote by Rumi that says, break your heart until it opens. And the other one is actually something that a mom told me, that her son told her from spirit. She was so excited when she told me this. And it's so interesting to me to hear this coming from a mom. But she said, my son told me that if he was supposed to stay here, he would have. But things have gone this way because it can be a better service, and I can be of better service. I can be a better person. He can be a better person if he's on the other side. That's why God allowed this to happen. I was like, wow.
So Josiah said to me, I hold your heart from here stronger than I could when there. He literally holds it. He holds us up. He holds me up. And I don't like it. I'm not going to pretend, like but it's bigger than all of us. It's just, I don't, I'm not one to say, well, there's a reason for everything. Well, I don't care, like there's no reason for this. So, I don't really subscribe to that, but maybe more about his purpose and his karma, and then my purpose and my karma. And, I think that we have to rethink the way we think, rethink, we have to rehear, and we have to receive, and we have to respeak the way our perceptions. And that's what helps us be whole. That doesn't mean we're oblivious or out of balance. We're, but that the perceptions of what the possibilities are so much bigger. And that's just how I do things, is and it's how I coach people, is to change perception. Because you might tell me a story and I can tell you that story back in a different perception, and all of a sudden the pain isn't as great, or you're not as angry, or because, like, let's look at it from over here. Okay, what if, and then you can heal and get out of our heads and drop into our hearts and see from our heart, the perceptions. One of my things I teach my grandkids is, he tripped me, and like, did he really trip you? Or was his foot out when you ran by? Like, did he really trip you? Or this or that, or he said, she said. And I'll pull out, whatever. I'll pull up this and say, like, what do you see? Well, I see the front of the book. What do you see? I see the back of the book. Well, let's turn it this way. And I'm like, right. Are you both looking at the book? Yeah. Perception. So, that's important.
It's extremely important. Yes.
Really important.
I love every single thing that you said. Oh, wow. Awesome. I see that you're mixing the cards. Are you planning on picking one?
Well, is there anybody on that wants a card, or you want me just to pull a few and say words?
Is there anybody on that wants a card or wants to ask Raina a question? Just write it in the comment. I do. Amy's saying I do. She wants a card.
Okay. So these cards, you can get my book on Amazon, but the cards are from my website. I have them here. Also, Because of Josiah is the spiritual book club of the month for September.
I saw that.
Super good timing, because I vowed for myself to read my own book from his birthday, which is August 19th, to his ascension, October 22. So give myself those 2 months. So the fact that they picked this month for the book was kind of profound. I'm like, well, your timing is phenomenal. And so
Perfect.
it's yeah. So
This timing is perfect. Just today with the matcha latte. So
there's Amy in the matcha. Yeah. Everything is in divine order. I am still here. Everything is in divine order. I don't know if you can see it. It's clear. I am still here. Everything, that's that, everything happens for a reason. But how about everything is in divine order? And everything happens the way it's supposed to, I guess. I don't know. So I don't, a lot of words I say I don't like them, but it's the language we have, it's the words we have. But everything happens in divine order. So if you look, when I look back, or you look back, I don't know if it's your child, but if you look back at the what's around that, and you go, okay, so that's divine order. So that's divine order. How can I see that from a perspective from a higher perspective, a spiritual perspective, divine order, and know that no matter what happens, the ones we love in spirit are right here. I'm still here. Like, I'm just in the next room. You know, I am literally right here. Right.
It's
here.
incredible because this is literally what one of the sentences that I wrote for today, which is Overdose Awareness Day. Um, I think that I wrote that same sentence, everything is in divine order.
Divine
And
order.
Amy saying, how perfect was that, Sylvia? My girl just sent that message today in capital letters.
Oh, awesome. I'm so glad.
Even Beth would like a card, if possible.
Okay, of course. So Beth and Bobby and I just did the Bereaved Parents USA tour, conference, and what amazing humans. Everybody should be going to their group.
Yeah,
Okay.
and by the way, I'm going to put the links to your page, to your groups, to your book, to everything in the description of the video.
Thank you. I love you.
I love that.
I love you, Mama. I love you. Love you. I can feel that one. I can feel that one strong. My body's tingling. Just loves you.
Sweet and direct, straight to the point.
Yeah. Love you.
Right. So there is nobody else that wants a card. Oh, thank you, Brian, for the message. I just saw it. And okay, so what can we expect from you? Are you having any upcoming classes? Are you having any mentorships? What are you having?
Well, right now I've got the book club, spiritual book club. I can post that under your link when you post it. So that Josiah, because of Josiah, will be the book. Beautiful. Of the month. And so I believe it is August. I don't have my phone. I believe it's not August, sorry, September 20. It's like a Monday, the last Monday of the month, or the Monday before that. I actually don't know where my phone is. I must have left me in the room. Bobby and Beth and I are doing a panel workshop for help healing through hope. So that'll be coming up, and you can write any of us, or when you go into my page, you can ask, and I'll be posting it in there. So that's coming up. So we're doing a workshop or a panel where we're going to talk about signs and the afterlife. And so that's coming up. That's about it. I do some lives in my group. I pull some cards. I'm going to be hosting the workshop for the book through the spiritual book club. And if I had my calendar in front of me, I would know what else I was doing. So
It's okay. You can send it to me, and then I'll put everything in the description.
I don't know what else I'm doing. So,
busy mama.
Yeah, we'll be putting some things together and posting them. So I totally invite you to join Sacred Alchemy Lullaby Letters. If you're a grieving parent, I post in there. And if you need some support, we're there to support you. I do readings, private readings, or I call intuitive talk therapy to help you gain that different perspective. And other than that, maybe might start writing again. I took a sabbatical from writing after the book came out in March. I was, I didn't even want to write a shopping list, like don't even put a pencil in my hand, but I'm sort of coming out of that a little bit, so.
Did you write it with your hand? Like, did you hand?
Some of it in the beginning I did, actually, yes, because again, I was clueless. I didn't even know how to make a Word document. so I knew how to make a Word document. I didn't know how to do it to like make it into a book to send it. And so like I was really green. I didn't know. So but now I do. So then I did, but I did write probably, I don't know, maybe about 10,000, 15,000 words. The beginning I wrote it, hand wrote it, and I still handwrite, and then I type it in, but then I learned to type it in and I learned how to speak it in and stuff. But then I
Oh,
don't know
that's a
what it
good one.
said. Yeah. But then you go back, if you don't correct it, then you're like, what was I saying?
Right,
So,
right. I feel you. All right, so before leaving, I want to remember today with the matcha latte that I decided to grab at Whole Foods at 8:30 in the morning, and I tasted it and I was like, this is disgusting. It tastes like seaweed. Like, I don't know how people can have it. Whatever. It's still here. I didn't touch it. And I came back. I took a little nap and I went to read parts of your book again. And that there it was, the part of the book in which you were talking about you, Josiah, and Rain taking different paths that day, and you trying the matcha latte and not liking it very much and dropping it. And
my
I was like,
stomach didn't like it.
in 26 years, this is the first time ever that I take this matcha latte, ever. I never tried it ever before. So, beautiful synchronicities. I didn't know why I was having it this morning. I think just because I didn't have the chai latte, but now I understand that Josiah was like, I'm excited that this is happening, that you girls are connecting and are making this happen.
Yeah.
So
You're not
and
gonna like it, like she's not drinking it, you're not drinking it.
I am not. I want to leave with one little poem from Josiah and one from you.
Okay.
We are gifts from heavens. We are all here for each other. Everything we need has been placed in our path at every step along the way. And this is from Josiah. I love this. I love that we're all messengers for one another. And this is from you. The earth shifts. The challenges before us today are the challenges behind us tomorrow, moving us ever closer to clarity. Every day greets us with challenges, some small, some big. But when we greet them back head on, responding in our integrity, that challenge turns liquid and we move through. We become stronger and coping doesn't seem as difficult. The earth shifts, the next road appears, and the journey continues. Our wisdom and our direction are birthed through the essence of our experiences. Through our own clarity, wisdom breaks free. Raina, this is 2006.
A long time ago, huh? In about 3 minutes. I wrote that in about 3 minutes.
So now I understand why he wants for you to write books and poetry and stuff, because he takes all the gifts from you, and of course he needs to use you to bring things that he probably already created in the ethereal here, little by little, saying, "Mom, take your time, but I have a bunch of stuff here that needs to come on earth. So just take your time."
Yeah.
All right, Reina, thank you so much for making this happen. I loved it. And I thank Josiah for bringing us together. I remember the first day that we met, it was for a tarot reading. And I didn't know anything about how to connect with spirit, but I remember the number 17 came up. I remember the concept of a book came up, and I saw somebody on a motorbike, but I was completely, I don't know, I was scared. I guess I didn't know what that meant. And I never really wanted to go that route. And I remember asking God, please, if this needs to happen, not with moms, they're too fragile for me, too delicate. I'm a truck driver. I cannot do this. But as usual, we don't get to do what we want or the comfortable things, right?
Yeah. If I had that same situation, like I didn't want to work with certain, like when I was young, I was like, I don't want to work with like in just a female environment, and I became an esthetician and now all they want to work with is women, you know, like, so I get it totally. So
And who knows what else is there.
you were still in Italy when we were talking, and yeah, it was really remarkable.
Yeah, we're still at the very beginning. I remember you saying you would, you wanted for me to try to connect. I was like, no, 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 no.
Go
This is
for it. Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah, you did. You did. He showed you right away. And
I took my time, just like we need to take our time, and they know, but they already are 150 steps ahead. So
and I think if I was going to leave you with anything, it's a couple things is it's not one thing you do, it's everything you do.
mm,
Every single thing you do. You must look at everything, and if something doesn't feel right, then don't do that anymore and do something else. But it's not one thing you do, it's everything you do. And to honor every aspect. There is no going backwards. So if you have a day where you feel like you weren't as far ahead anymore, it's just a day, it's a moment, it's where you need to be in this journey, in this part of who you are. Honor every aspect. If you're whatever it is, just honor yourself.
I literally just heard in my mind that you don't know what you do is going to help somebody, is going to save somebody, is going to be a message for somebody.
Yeah.
And it's true. Just by us existing here and making it through today and through tomorrow is a gift for somebody that we don't even know. We don't know how we are influencing people. Oh my goodness gracious. Thank you so much, Raina. Thank you, Josiah.
Yeah.
Thank you for all those that listen. And I'll put all the links in the description below of the video. Thank you so much, Raina, from my heart.
Thank you, from my heart to yours.
I love you.
I love you too.
All right. You all have a blessed day, and I'll see you soon. So let me see how